Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you, Manju, for your kind introduction. And Raj, that was brilliant and very interesting and provocative, so thank you. While they're putting my presentation up, I want to, my name is Bob Wright. I want to begin with a story, actually. Take us back to the year 2006. And at that time, I got a call from a very brilliant technology executive. And this executive, he was, by the way, happened to be of Indian origin. He called me and he said he had a problem. He had developed some very disruptive technology, and the market just didn't get it. He was having a very difficult time having people understand why this product was important, and they couldn't get their first set of customers for this disruptive technology. So I asked him a question. I asked, well, why your company now? Why your company now? Why is this product so important now? And I didn't get a very good answer. So I went to his company, did some analysis, asked a few questions, and it became really clear what the problem was. The problem was this technology product was so far ahead of its time that there was no language for what the product did. As a result, all the executives were forced to have speak about the product with technical jargon and geek speak, and it took 30 slides to explain to a buyer what this product was all about. So I asked him a second question. Well, what's the big problem that this product solves for your buyers? And then we had the positioning story. Because see, what we had to do was climb into the lexicon and into the lives of the buyers, and after that we were able to craft a story and message that actually resonated with those buyers. And then the company took off. And 5 years later, 2 weeks ago, this executive, Anil Bhusri, and his company Workday had one of the most successful IPOs ever in the technology industry, and I think it's worth a $60 billion company right now. So this is the power of positioning and what it can do for a company. And that's what I'd like to talk about today in my part, differentiate or die. Thank you, Raj. So first off, I want to say hello, India. It's great to be back here. I love coming to your country. You know, it's the home of some of the world's oldest religions. It's one of the fastest growing economies in the world. The binary system was created here 1,500 years ago, which created our industry, and we're all thankful it created all these companies and jobs for all of us. And India now is poised to take a leadership role in the world once again. You know, I read a McKinsey report, a recent McKinsey report, that talked about India is going to become the first, or has the opportunity to become the first digital mobile society. And I wonder what it would be like when 1.2 billion connected minds and what they can do. And as I look around in this particular audience here, I wonder how many Anil Bhusris and how many Workdays and how many disruptive technologies are actually sitting here in this audience today. So the agenda I'd like to work with today is just talk a little about the importance of positioning for differentiation, what positioning is, where it fits, and then I want to walk through a positioning model that I've been working with a lot of technology executives and companies to help them drive leadership position through competitive positioning, and then discuss some 7 new rules for actually implementing that model. These are best practices that we have learned from working with all these, I think we've launched and positioned well over 250 different technology products. And positioning is very, very difficult. You know, typically when we work with a client, we're there, you know, to get a really, really good positioning story. It takes 2 to 3 months for us to get it honed down and get a really powerful story. But I do have a framework that I'll end my presentation with that it actually puts this new model in place, and it's a pragmatic way that you can use to actually begin creating your own positioning stories using this model and using these new rules for positioning. You know, what's fascinating about the technology industry today right now is inflection points. Inflection points give us an opportunity to drive significant growth and also disrupt the established market leaders. And what's very unique about this particular time is we get to benefit from the convergence of all these different inflection points: cloud, mobile, social, open source. Those are just some of the inflection points that are coming together at this point in time. And these are some of the companies right here that have benefited from these inflection points and have realized some significant multiples on their revenue valuation. And the question I always look at when I'm working with all these companies is, well, which companies, why do these companies make it? And there's hundreds of companies out there, technology companies, that weren't able to take advantage of those inflection points. And one of these things that all these companies have in common is they all have powerful, differentiated positioning stories. And that's why positioning is becoming a core competency for most of the technology companies, at least in Silicon Valley where I live. You know, as Raj mentioned this in his presentation earlier today, what is positioning? Well, positioning is in the mind of your prospect. It doesn't matter if you think you have the greatest product in the world, if your prospects and the buyers don't believe that. What's really important is the perception of you and your product in the market. And that's what positioning is all about. It's how you differentiate your solution in the minds of the market, and it cuts through the clutter. Really, really good positioning is simple. It cuts through the clutter, and it focuses on the perceptions of the prospect. When we do positioning for a company, we create a positioning story, a PowerPoint presentation, and a message guide. And good positioning feeds everything. Positioning will help inform product marketing and help them focus their efforts and determine which of the particular features they should actually prioritize. If you have very good positioning, it can be used by your PR agency to drive thought leadership, and for marketing analysts for category creation. It can also be used as an internal rallying cry for your employees to inspire your employees. Also for your channel messaging, buyer conversations for your direct sales organization, as well as campaigns. But the question is, how do you know you have a positioning problem? And Raj alluded to this earlier. One of them is, well, if you've got a presentation that's 30 slides too long, you've got a positioning problem. The other one is the blah, blah, blah test. I always ask, because, you know, living in the technology world, if your grandmother can't understand what you do for a living, you've got a positioning problem. And the other thing is, if you ask 3 people what you do and you get 3 different answers, that's also a symptom that you have a deep positioning problem. And the other one is what I call the web, or the www, or the website test, where you can take your competitor's logo and just slap it on your website and nobody would know the difference, and vice versa. You both look the same. Or you spend a lot, I see this all the time, you spend a lot of money on PR and you get nowhere. Or from a sales perspective, you have really long sales cycles. Your sales reps are calling on anything that moves out there. You've got a big positioning problem. And finally, you just don't have a viewpoint in the market. So let's talk a little bit about a positioning model that I've been working with over the past couple years. This is a key point in this presentation. Fundamentally shifting the focus from your product to your buyer. This is the key model that is building differentiated positioning strategies in today's technology world. Now, I'm a product marketing person by trade. I remember spending years and months with the engineering group to come up with a really, really great product, and we're ready to launch it. And what's the first thing you want to talk about? You want to talk about the product. It's cool features. All these years we've been spending building that product, but the market doesn't care. Nobody cares about your product. What they care about is buyers care about themselves. So what's driving differentiated positioning strategies and stories is actually fundamentally shifting about a conversation about you and your cool product, and actually talking about your buyer. and putting your product in the context of the buyer and their world and how you can solve their problems. So let me give you some examples. I've got a client of mine that had a product information management system. It's a SaaS solution. He talked about, I asked what was so great. It's geotagged. It's XML based. We got this brand new release. And after working with them, again, from a product-centric positioning, we fundamentally shifted the positioning and said, well, no, your product's not about a PIM SaaS solution. What you're really about is this is a solution for global brand execution for retailers to synchronize their flow of product information. You see the fundamental difference in the conversation. Same thing with a big data company we worked with recently. Again, they were very proud of their Release 5.0, big data analytics. They've got some capability to work with Hadoop, and they've got tiered storage. No. We fundamentally shifted that conversation to a conversation asking businesses, well, how can you run your entire business without all the data? You need both structured and unstructured data to run your business today. And finally, a recent client of ours, which is a disruptor to AWS, and when we showed up, again, they were talking about how different we were. We have a data center operating system, and we've got a virtualized operating system and a lot of introspection capabilities. And again, changing that conversation, talking about a story and a positioning around that product, around their cloud infrastructure built to power today's apps, delivering a performance multiplier on an IT investment. So again, fundamentally shifting the conversation when you talk about your products, not so much about the products and its capabilities, but more about what it does and the problems it solves for your buyers. So let's talk about some positioning rules that we use to build these powerful differentiated positioning stories for our clients and putting this model in action. The first rule, rule number 1, Fortune 500 or SMB is not a market. The old way of segmenting your markets around company size does not work anymore. First off, if you're going after the Fortune 500 in your startup, 90% of the Fortune 500 will never buy from you because you're not a startup. They don't buy from startups. And the other, 5% of them won't buy from you yet because they want to wait until the technology's a little more baked. And the same thing with SMB. It's not a market. We were working with Citrix in their online division, and GoToMeeting, and they had, we own the SMB market. But the problem they ran into is for them to become the next billion-dollar business unit of Citrix, they had to grow beyond the SMB market. And because they had that narrow position, well, we're for SMB, and we've always been for SMB, it was hampering their revenue growth. So we completely shifted their market segmentation, and we say, well, we're not for a company size. We don't care if you're a small business or a large business. What's more important is the way you work. And if you work virtually, if you work away from home, if you're not in the office, if you work with a team that's a virtual team, whether you're a one-person consultancy, a 10-person department, or if you're one of the largest companies of the world, it doesn't matter the size of the company. What matters is how you work. So again, rule number 1, the old way of segmentation around company size no longer works. What's building powerful positioning strategies is actually focusing on a market by understanding what are the 3 or 4 dimensions that have to be present for that buyer to raise their hand. Rule number 2. Rule number 2 is, who is your Mary? One of the cardinal sins that I always see in a technology, and especially a lot of startups that we work with, is I ask, well, who is this product for? This is really a great product. Oh, everybody needs this product. This is for everybody. Well, good positioning actually narrowly focuses, as Chris was saying in the earlier presentation, where's that beachhead? And that's what we call your Mary. Mary is there was a Wall Street Journal article about a couple years ago, and there was a journalist that went to Minneapolis to talk to this retail company that was doing wildly successful while all the other retailers were really having a hard time. And in the economy. This is a U.S. retailer. And they asked, well, why are you doing so well? Why is your revenue, and your sales just going off the roof and all your competitors are flat? And the CEO of that company said, well, that's because we sell to Mary. And he goes, what? We sell to Mary, and everything we do is, well, what would Mary think? And Mary was a 43-year-old homemaker, and they knew every single thing, vast industry. The focus in that organization is really on revenue growth, not on cost cutting. This particular CIO may report to the CEO, and it's really around a results-based IT. So the message to this particular CIO is going to be around IT agility, shared risk, and that's very, very different from a different type of CIO we can call Audie. And maybe Audie runs a regionalized IT ops and really actually has a heritage of experimentation and really is looking for a game changer. They might report to a line of business, and they're all about how do I optimize my current IT. So for them, what they really value in the messaging would be around technical performance, because that's really what they value when they get off. And that's very, very different from a third type of CIO, which we call Kenneth. And Kenneth might be the maintainer. And this is a different type of CIO, which would require a different type of message. This is a CIO where the business doesn't really rely on IT for change. IT is really seen as a commodity. It's not really respected. So there's a lot of focus on budget cuts. This particular CIO may actually report to the CFO rather than the CEO. So really, the message and positioning to this, if this is your Mary, would be around cutting costs, a message around IT operational excellence. So again, as you can see, it's very, very important to really understand who your Mary is. Blanket statements like SMB, CIO don't really give you the focus necessary to drive really differentiated positioning strategies. So again, rule 1, SMB is not a market. Rule 2, who is your Mary? And that brings us to rule number 3. If you leave with anything today, this is probably the key message I can offer to you. All successful technology companies own a problem that your buyer deeply cares about, a problem that if they don't solve it, they will get fired, a hair-on-fire problem. So the challenge I offer to you is, what big, hairy problem does your product or solution solve, whether it's a consumer or whether it's a business? Let me give you an example of some problems. So one of our clients was in the mobile industry, and they had a really innovative mobile couponing where you could have coupons delivered to your mobile phone, and through a point-of-sale system in any retail system, they could redeem those coupons. This company could not find their first customer. And the problem they were running into is they were talking to these point-of-sale guys who they were a threat to because they saw mobile couponing as a big threat, or they just didn't get what these guys were talking about. We said, no, your Mary is not going to be these people. It's actually going to shift your Mary to a CMO. And we're going to say, you solve the problem of CMOs trying to figure out, how do I monetize my mobile consumer? And how can I use this mobile couponing platform to actually be a mobile customer management platform that can help me, all my fragmented mobile plays that I'm making out there, how can I bring all those together and help me own the mobile customer? So we created a whole conversation about you as a CMO. The next big customer base that you have to own is the mobile customer. How are you going to do it? Are you placing the right bets? We've got a system that can help you do it. And as soon as they did this, and we switched the Mary to a CMO with this type of conversation rather than mobile couponing, they got their first 6 customers in 3 months, and they have gone on to be a very successful mobile company. But again, the question is, what problem do you own? The same thing, we worked with another company, had some very, very innovative decisioning and predictive CRM software. And again, they were out there touting, we got the best decisioning software, we've got this new predictive CRM software. We fundamentally shifted that conversation to say the big problem for their Mary or target market was shrinking customer lifetime value. They were focused on retail organizations. And what was happening in the retailers is the customer lifetime value of their customers was shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And that's where we fundamentally shifted again this technology to focus on that problem. And we talked about what this company did in the context of the problem they solved. And finally, this is a recent company. Actually, it's SAS, the real big, analytics company. Real big scientists, analytics, very proud of their analytics. And they decided to focus on a market segment around marketing campaign analytics, and they had some very interesting, innovative technology. Again, we fundamentally shifted that conversation from marketing campaign analytics to you as a CMO need to find more revenue. And by using our marketing campaign analytics, we can help you drive more incremental revenue. So again, fundamentally, it's can you own a problem? Who is your Mary, and can you own a big, hairy problem if you're Mary? But it's not enough just to own a problem. You also have to make sure that your solution is connected to a funded initiative that your buyer has. Otherwise, your sales cycles will get long from a B2B perspective. You're going to spend a lot of time trying to steal budget from other funded initiatives. So I always make sure, especially if it's a newer technology, what are the 4 or 5 funded initiatives that are on the radar screen of your particular buyer that you can solve? Raj talked about this earlier. Rule number 4, have a point of view. Again, those companies that are making a difference and taking the market category leadership position in their markets all have a point of view. Think about Salesforce.com. Salesforce.com did not come out and say, we've got something new called SaaS, SaaS-based CRM. What did they say? Their point of view is no software. You don't need software anymore. Why should you have to implement and install all this heavy software? No software was their point of view, and it was a provocative viewpoint at that particular time when they announced and introduced that company. So again, all technology companies that have a strong differentiated position have a point of view. Rule 5, take a corner of the room. Very important. Say this is the market category, and your buyers walk into this market category. If you're in the middle, bunched in there with all your competitors, that's a very bad place to be. What you want to do is carve out a distinct corner of the room that you can own and say, yeah, why we're different is we solve this big, hairy problem. Or our competitors are great. They're in that corner of the room. They solve a completely different problem. Or they solve yesterday's problem. Or that competitor, they solve a problem for a different buyer. And positioning strategies are the work that help the buyers draw those distinctions between you and your competition. Raj mentioned this, communicate with stories, stories that bring your companies and products alive. Stories need to answer 3 questions for your buyers. Number 1, why your company now? Why not 5 years ago? Why not 2 years ago? What are the market dynamics that are occurring right now for your buyers that require your product or solution now? Secondly, how are you different? Why are you different from the other solutions to solve that problem? And then you also have to answer the question in your story for your buyer, how as a buyer will my life be fundamentally different with your solution 6 months from now or 3 months from now? Why your company now? Why are you different? And how's my life going to be better? Those are the 3 questions you need to answer for your buyers in your positioning stories. This is one of my favorite ones, no geek speak. I am on a mission to ban these words from the technology industry. Flexible, comprehensive, extensible, scalable, agile, and especially easy to use. These words mean nothing anymore. They're overused. Please don't use these words anymore. In ending, I want to quickly show you what how you would put these rules in action and how to tell a powerful story. Well, here's your presentation structure. Slide 1, here's our great product for the cloud mobile social world. Slide 2 is, here's the great platform we've got. Slide 3 is, well, here's our great monitoring feature. And of course, here's our great analytics feature. Slide 5 would be, here's some stats to back up why we're so great. This is familiar. Slide 6 is, how does our cool product work? And then slide 7 is, well, here's some cool screenshots. Here's our requisite logo splash slide of all our customers. And finally, here's our wonderful executives, and of course, we have a cool dog at our office dog. And finally, you'd be crazy not to buy this amazing product. Wrong. This is every technology presentation follows this format. It doesn't work. Please don't do it. I'd like to offer a better way and ask you perhaps try this with your own companies and create your own stories using this structure. And here's your 10 slides. Slide number 1. Here's some big results from customers like you. I'm selling to a CMO. Here's other CMOs that have gotten big results. Oh, wow, really? Some recent market dynamics. Your world has changed, Mary, and it's causing you a big, big problem. Notice I haven't even talked about the product yet. I've talked about the buyer, how the world has changed. Here's your big problem, and you're going to get fired if you don't solve this problem. Slide 5. The traditional approaches, my competitors, the stuff you've been trying, is not going to work anymore. And what you got to do to fix the problem is these 3 things. And of course, slide 7 is, our company can do that. And here's the 3 to 4 reasons why our company can do it. Here's your big hairy mess all cleaned up, how your life's going to look fundamentally different. And then finally, a call to action. These are the 10 headlines, the 10 slides that'll dramatically change the way you talk about your company and the way your product is received in the market. With that, I want to leave you with, I think we're on the eve of a big holiday. I'm planning to stick around myself and enjoy it. So, are we out of time, or do we take questions?
I think we are doing good on time. We'll take few questions. Thanks, Bob. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.